church has chosen the readings for today, and they kind of, in the last couple of Sundays, have plopped us into what we might call David's soap opera. And today it continues, and the reading that we have today kind of plops us in the middle of things. And if you don't know what came before that, you say, what is this all about? Who is this Absalom guy? What is he all about? Well, if you look at David's family and you look at David himself, the kings in those days apparently could have as many wives as they wanted, and he did. So you know about the story of Bathsheba, that he married her after he killed Uriah the prophet, her husband, and her first baby died, and the second baby came along is Samuel. Now that story about Samuel stands over here. Over here is yet another story that precedes what you read in the readings today. It precedes that. And I'm going to go into it with it, and it's another sordid story. And then we're going to we'll say later why that might be in the scriptures and why we want to hear all that stuff. First of all, amongst his other brides, his other wives, he had a son by the name of Amnon, and he was called the firstborn from one wife. And from another wife came two children called Absalom and Tamar, a boy and a girl. Amnon was a little bit of a rebel guy, and he looked at his stepsister, or his stepsister, as a very beautiful lady. And he had this lust in his heart that he wanted to sleep with her. But he didn't know how to go about that. How can I get her alone? Well, some guy, a friend of his, came to him and said, tell you what you do. You pretend that you're sick, and you put yourself to bed. And then you go to your father, King David, and say, would you please send my sister Tamar? I love it. Would you please send Tamar to me so she can cook for me, and then deliver to me what she's cooked, and I will eat it, and that will help me. And the king said, sure, we'll do that. And so he had Tamar come there. And as she was preparing, he watched her do that from his bed. Remember, he's not sick. Watched her from the bed. And then he dismissed out of the room everybody else that was there except her. And when the door was closed in his chamber, he got up and attacked her and raped her. Now, that really displeased her real brother, her full brother, Absalom. I mean, he was really upset. And he didn't go after him right away. It took 2 years for him to do what he was about to do. He created a party for all the sheep shearers and invited his brothers and all, including Amnon, to that party. And at the party, he had some of his henchmen kill Amnon. Well, David was very upset over that. Why David didn't correct Amnon and punish him for that is beyond. It says in there he loved him so much he couldn't punish him. Come on. That's not love, huh? At any rate, now Absalom, who had him killed, now he's out on the land. They got after him. If he kills his brother, they're going to kill him. So he departed. He went away. And he stayed away for a long time. And all of a sudden, Joab, who was David's chief general, said, that's not right. That's not right. So he went and got a lady who was somewhat, they say she had good rhetoric, meaning she was an actress. And she pretended to have a story to come to David and to tell David about this story. She came with her story. King David, I need your help. I am a widow. And I had 2 sons. And the 2 sons got into a fight, and one brother killed the other brother. Now the whole family is around to kill the brother who killed the brother. And if he gets killed, I'll have nobody. I'm a widow, no husband, no brother, no sons. Would you do something? Well, it got David to say, yeah, I'll do something. Yeah, I will protect him and nobody will touch him. And then he kind of figured, this doesn't seem right. And David said to her, were you put up to say this to me? And she says, yep, I got to tell you. Joab told me to tell you this story. He said, yep, I can see that. Now, what's the story really about? And she told him, it's because you are not letting your son Absalom come back to see you. And David woke up. And he says, yeah, I really should. My son Absalom, I really should bring him back. So he told Joab to bring Absalom back into the city, but I don't want to see him. I want you to put him in his own house. As long as he's here, but I don't want to see him. And that went on for 2 years. Didn't want to see him. Well, Absalom finally said, you know, this is crazy. I got a good life where I ran away from. I could be there. Why am I here when I can't even see my father? And so he said, I got to see my father. So what are we going to do? We're going to go back to Joab to bring him back. He sent a message to Joab and he said, will you please come? Will you please come to see me? I got a message for you. Joab didn't come. He sent a second message. Will you please come? And they didn't come. And he said, I know what's going to happen. He said, Joab, he's got a field. He's got a field right next to mine. Go and burn it, he says to his men. And so they went and burned his field. And then Joab came to see him. And he said, why can't I see my father? And he said, what did you do? Burn my field? He said, yeah, that's the only way I could get your attention. So Joab said, okay, I'll talk to King David. So King David came in and says, yeah, let's open this up. Let Absalom come to see me. So they got Joab, and David forgave him of his killing his brother. David hugged him, loved him, kept him. And then all of a sudden, Absalom got the idea that maybe I should be king instead of David. And so he started to go off early in the morning. He'd go every morning to the gate. And he would sit there. And anybody who came to see David for a problem he had, Absalom would stop him and say, there's nobody there that can take care of you. I will take care of you. And he built up this reputation over 4 years that he was going to help the people and not King David. He usurped the idea from him. He got all kinds of people in favor of him, even to the point of calling him king of Israel. Well then, David understood that. He said, you know what? This guy is going to get me. And so he gathered all his people and they left Jerusalem and they went off. But now the forces came together. Another thing about Absalom was that once a year he had his hair cut. Right, Tim? Yep. You and me. Once a year he had his hair cut. And when he had his hair cut this one time, they cut it off and weighed it, and it weighed 6 pounds, what they cut off. Well, at this point, he still had his hair. And he came to the forces of David's crew, and they were chasing him, and he was riding on the mule. Now, a mule is the vehicle for the royalty. And he was riding on the mule. He went under this grove of trees, and that massive hair thing got caught in the branches. The mule kept running, and he was dangling. And so the enemy, David's people, came upon him. And the first guy that came upon him said, no, I'm just going to report that he's hanging in the tree. And he went to Joab, and Joab said, I'll take care of him. And he went there and killed him. And then it speaks about the Cushite coming to King David and saying, wish all of your enemies were like that young man. And David realized that his son was dead. They killed his son. And that just tore his heart apart. Because again, he loved Absalom. He loved Amnon. But neither one of them did he correct. He knew Absalom was out to get him. And he didn't know how to handle it. At any rate, Absalom now is dead. And that's what we picked up the story today. That, oh, Absalom, my son, my son, my son, my son. Now, why do we have such a sordid story to listen to? And I think inside of that might be a whole bunch of things, lessons we can learn. I think we learned the lesson of forgiveness. Remember, David was forgiven for his sin of murder and adultery with Bathsheba, and God forgave him. And he never forgot that. And so he said, I guess I need to forgive too. So he forgave Amnon, he forgave Absalom. He just was a forgiving person. But you know, he didn't have tough love, which he should have had to control those 2 boys. He just didn't have it for them. He was doting on them with kind of a love that wasn't a real kind of love. So we kind of learn from that. You know, the parents got to have control there of the children, and you got to give them tough love Grow them up the way they should be, not just let them go helter-skelter the way David did to his sons. Gotta control them. Another thing we learn about it is, think about Absalom, the son of the king, is going to take the kingdom away from his father. What's happened to honor your father and your mother? He just totally disobeyed that. I'm going to be king. This arrogance got him, and he built an army, and he was going to kill David and take over the whole kingship. Honor your father and your mother. What happened to that? We need to have children honor our fathers and our mothers. All kinds of lessons that we can learn from this. David was swayed by some of these stories, and he pulled his attitude around from hearing these fake stories. Got to watch for that. Got to watch for fake stories. When Jesus came along, he looks at all of this Old Testament stuff, all of this intrigue, this murder and adultery and rape and all, and he changes it all to us and says, well, we read that in the scriptures today. He says, read this one. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me shall have eternal life. And then through his prophet, Paul, he tells us in the stories today, be angry, but do not sin. Now, does that mean we are allowed to be angry? Oh, yeah. If something happens, we get angry. Anger is okay. But do not sin. That's the big part. If we get angry and we get vindictive and we replace evil for evil, that's not right. But let your anger be corrective. Let your anger be for good. Be angry, but do not sin. Good lesson from Paul. And it's a whole different view that Jesus gives us. He takes that Old Testament for all their ways and their doings and reforms it and makes it Jesus' way. Jesus is completing that Old Testament. What else did Paul say? Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, and to get together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. These are messages of Jesus, totally fulfilling the Old Testament and changing it to Jesus' way. What a difference. Jesus said the following to his people today, that anybody who believes in him shall have eternal life. He who eats the bread of life will live forever, and Jesus is that bread of life. So, why do we have this Old Testament reading? I think to perk us up and say, that's the Old Testament. That's how they did it back then. We don't do that anymore. We have Jesus. And Jesus has corrected this whole thing, made it new. We are different people. We don't give evil for evil. We have good thoughts for those who are evil against us. We take care of each other. We have family togetherness with tough love that's really love, that changes children and makes them into good children of God. That is the lesson I think that we're given today, even to listen to all these sordid stories. Jesus is the one. Jesus is the guide. Jesus is our Savior, and we are his people. Amen.